Hey everyone, we're just going to give the rest of the attendees a few more minutes to join. We'll get started in about 3 minutes. All right, let's get started. Thanks for joining us today, everyone. We're here to talk about marketing for the fashion and beauty verticals, and we're really excited to have you all. Before we get started, though, I just wanted to go over a couple of housekeeping items. If you're not familiar with us, Taboola is the world's largest discovery platform. Over 20,000 companies use us to reach over 1.4 billion people every month. And we're going to talk through some of our best practices with you today, specifically for the fashion and beauty verticals. As we're talking, on the right-hand side of your screen in the GoToWebinar control panel, there is a questions module there. Feel free to ask us any questions throughout the webinar, and when we're finished at the end, we'll try to get to as many as we can. If you'd like to tweet us, you can use the hashtag TaboolaTalks, and we'll try to respond to as much as we can. All right, let's get started.
Hey everyone, so my name is Rachel Zalta. I am Taboola's Global Research and Insights Lead. My background's in psychology, so I'm going to be referring to some psychological experiments and studies. I've been at Taboola for quite a while, for 4.5 years, and my job here is actually to study online behavior. I try to look at every click as a human behavior and try to relate it to other psychological research.
And I'm Megan. I'm Taboola's Senior Content Marketing Manager. I've been in content marketing in the technology industry for about 7 years, working in all types of different technologies, obviously most currently advertising tech, but also MarTech, HR tech, some security, some sustainability, and my bread and butter is really storytelling, data, and distribution. I've been at Taboola for 3 years and have been helping Taboola and our clients get better at content marketing since then. All right, so to dive in, I want to start a little bit by backing up and talking a little bit about the sales opportunity for fashion and beauty brands, because it's massive. The global apparel market is projected to make over $1.9 trillion in revenue in 2020. $1 trillion. It's a lot. I mean, we've done webinars for other verticals. This is the most opportunity of any vertical that I've ever come across. And 23, oh, sorry, Rachel.
No, I'm just saying that's a huge number.
Yeah, it's a big number. 23% of that revenue is going to be generated online. So planning your online campaigns are going to be critical. And for the beauty and personal care market, we're talking about an opportunity of $84 billion, still a massive number. And 22% of those sales are going to come from online. So again, online campaigns is critical here. And this is just for the US alone. I wasn't able to find a global number, but the opportunity, I'm sure, is bigger even globally. So what we're going to talk about a little bit today is where's your opportunity, right? So we started with the massive sales opportunity that fashion and beauty brands have online. We took a look at the online campaigns in our network, in the Taboola network, to discover where the best opportunity is for you and your brand to be successful. And we do this looking at two very specific things. We look at the click-through rate of fashion and beauty content on our network, and we consider that demand. If people are clicking on content or an ad of some sort, we consider them wanting demand for that piece of content. We also look at the supply on our network, how much of that content is running through our network at one time. And if there's a low supply of content and a high demand for it, we consider that an opportunity for our marketers. So we're going to pinpoint some of those areas for you today to help you be a little bit more successful with your online campaigns. So to start, one of the most important things for your online marketing strategy is finding the right people, of course. So in order to find them, you have to know where they are online and when they're online. So let's start with where. This is an analysis that we did of different devices that people are shopping or reading about fashion and beauty content online. And this analysis specifically talks about that supply and demand opportunity that I was just talking about here. So the biggest opportunity that exists for fashion and beauty marketers is targeting online campaigns on tablet devices. You can see the click-through rate here being really high and the supply being very low. Most fashion and beauty marketers are targeting campaigns on their desktop devices, and we really recommend testing a campaign or two on tablet devices. So this shows an analysis of the time of year and how trends changed over time. The most important thing here that I want to point out is that you don't want to forget about the beginning of the year. So some of these other trends are a little bit obvious. Definitely sales for fashion and beauty tend to spike during the end of the year leading up to the holiday season, and we do see that trend in our analysis. But also there's still a very high demand for these types of products and this type of content in January and a little bit leading into February after the holidays. You're missing out on that high demand, and there's very low supply at that time of year. Fashion and beauty marketers are tending to pull back on their spend and not run content in the beginning of the year. So there's a big opportunity to capitalize on to meet that demand if you're one of the fashion and beauty marketers that's continuing their online campaigns. So plan to extend your spend through January at least, or at least testing some of it to see if you can drive more sales.
Sorry about that. Yeah, so we also looked at days of week. We were wondering if there's a specific day of week that people click on more, or there's more demand or more supply. And what we found was that we saw the highest CTR, the highest demand on Tuesdays. And if you look at the spend percentage there, the spend percentage is pretty low. So we see a really, really high opportunity on Tuesdays. Mondays, Tuesdays, and Wednesdays are all pretty good, but specifically Tuesdays. I wonder why. No, Megan? Like why are Tuesdays the days that people are looking for fashion and beauty?
I don't know. Maybe people are bored at work. I'm not sure. Friday makes sense to me, but Tuesday's surprising.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we also look at time of day. So here we actually ignore anything before 6 a.m. Because there really isn't enough. There aren't enough people online then, so the data isn't statistically significant. But if we look at the rest of the times, the CTR is pretty high during the night, like 10 p.m., 11 a.m., and that's when spend really goes down. So we see that as a really great opportunity.
Got to catch those late night shoppers.
Yep.
So I also just want to talk a little bit about targeting by site. So when you're running ads with Taboola or on the open web of any sort, you can choose the sites that you want to target your ads to or your content to. And we recommend at the beginning targeting wide. The mindset on the open web of consumers is a little bit different than it typically is on your search and social sites. People are they're poised to discover things that they haven't seen in the past. They're looking to discover something new. So we actually recommend as minimal targeting as you're comfortable with, or even no targeting to start for maybe like a week or two, and see which sites really drive the best performance for you before narrowing down and adjusting your spend per site. We also recommend pretty much the same thing for audience segments. The audiences that work on Facebook and Google might not work here. And in addition, like I said, the mindset is different. So we recommend targeting, again, as wide as you're comfortable with, or having no targeting at all to start. We have seen some fashion brands in particular find new audiences doing this. We do have a case study with a brand named Mac Weldon, and when we were working with them, they sell men's underwear, and we were working with them. They were targeting all male-based audience segments, and they actually discovered that they had a huge female audience as well, whether it was for gifts or whatever they were buying for. If they were just buying things for others, they had this huge female audience, and they found success expanding to that audience when they widened their audience and tested it. So we really do recommend going as wide as possible to see what's working for you on the open web before narrowing down. All right, so now I want to talk a little bit about how exactly to capture your audience's attention. You found them on the open web, you're targeting when and where they are, so here's exactly how to captivate them. When it comes to the type of content that people want to see from fashion and beauty brands, they really want to see photos and photo galleries. I mean, this naturally feels correct to me, right? If you're shopping for clothing or for beauty products, you want to see pictures of what it is that you're buying, how it looks on other people, maybe how the beauty products are working. But we really see the highest demand for photo gallery content, and really not a lot of supply. A lot of people are running text-based articles, and there's a huge opportunity for photo galleries. I do think it's worth pointing out that video landing pages as well, there is still a pretty high demand in comparison with the supply, so there's an opportunity there. But if we made a recommendation to you, it would be to test photo galleries.
Cool. So now we'll speak about some examples from sponsored content. These are some, we went over some campaigns that were doing really, really well, and we mapped out some strategies. So we have a few here, and I have a few that I'm going to mention later. The first is celebrity marketing. So this is one example, our favorite Willow Smith hairstyles, right? Looking at a celebrity and what kinds of beauty or fashion tips we can get from them. That is a great strategy that we see that works really, really well in our network. Another one is a sense of urgency, and I actually really like this one. Like, this would really make me click. Use your FSA dollars before they expire, right? And you're actually doing good when you're advertising this, right? You're trying to help people here. So I love that one. Looking at seasonality is important too, right? Fashion and fashion trends are changing all the time. So we saw these types of headlines doing well. How to work this season's red lip trend, right? Another thing that's really interesting with seasonality is that, of course, in the winter, we're going to see more, people wearing jackets and like warm clothing. And in the summer, we'll see people wearing bathing suits and those kinds of clothing. So that's an interesting thing to keep in mind, right? How are people feeling right now? Are they freezing cold at home, or are they out on the beach? And then the last strategy here is DKI targeting. This is a technology that we have that you can actually put a piece of code in the title and it'll change depending on where your user is. So in this example, it says New York up to 60% off on glasses, but in my case, it would say Tel Aviv because I'm in Tel Aviv right now. So this is a great way to kind of, target the audience specifically, and it really catches their eye, right? If I would see Tel Aviv in one of the titles, it will grab my attention right away because it's a personally relevant piece of information. So that's another strategy that we see that works really well. There were a few more that I actually remember, so I'll talk about those too. Megan, I don't know if you remember these two. I think you do, because we went over these campaigns together. So there was one really interesting thing that we noticed, that a lot of the titles, a lot of the campaigns were actually focused on an older audience. So that was a cool insight. And another thing that we noticed was that experts were working really well. So if it was like a dermatologist, or if it's some kind of fashion expert, DIYs were working really well too. And another last thing was that there were a lot of hair focused campaigns that were doing really well. So I don't know if that's a trend that's working well on Discovery or it's working well on the whole internet, but cool things to keep in mind when you're putting together your next campaign.
And kind of bouncing off, Rachel, what you were saying about the DKI targeting, it's not exactly the same, but like she was saying, that personalization really catches people's eye and interests people. So I wanted to call out a successful advertiser that we worked with in the fashion industry called Bombfell. They are a subscription fashion box that can come to your home. You can try on the clothes, you put back in the box what you don't want, and you keep what you do want, and that's what you pay for. Their campaign sent users to a landing page that entirely personalized the experience for them. So they asked, that person what types of clothes they liked, what their sizes were, what types of body type they had, the certain types of styles. They had people select, different styles that they liked to sort of have an algorithm produce better recommendations for them, match them with a personal stylist, and then ask them to convert. That personalization did really well for them, and kind of piggybacks off of what we're talking about with the DKI targeting, right? The more personal you can make the experience for people, the more successful that they'll be.
Yeah, totally. And I feel like that's specifically relevant to fashion and beauty,
Yeah, I think so too. So I also want to talk a little bit about how you can use content to move people through the funnel. People aren't always going to buy directly from an ad on the open web, even though they do a lot of the time, especially if they know your brand beforehand. But there's some different strategies that you can use to to work people through the funnel to make sure your pipeline is always full. So one, I'm sure you're familiar with the 3 general stages of the funnel: awareness, consideration, and decision. Awareness is the stage where you're really trying to get people to get to know you for the first time. Consideration is where they might want to buy, but they might not be sure that they're going to buy yet. And then decision is when finally they're ready to buy. So we have some examples here from a US retailer on how to move people through the funnel to buy some winter boots. In the awareness stage, you might say something like, "This winter's fashion trends stun New Yorkers." She's sitting there with some great boots on. We're picking on New Yorkers today. She's sitting there with some boots on. You might land on a blog post with just a bunch of fashion trends. You're qualifying people that are interested in this season's fashion trends with this piece of content. And then in the consideration phase, you want to qualify people who are interested in purchasing those fashion trends. So here we have a headline: "Take this quiz to find the right boots for your style." If somebody's looking for the right boots for them, they're likely considering a purchase. And then finally, in the decision stage, 50% off all high top boots between now and Friday. That's a clear call to action. If people are clicking on that, they're making a decision and they're ready to buy. So you can use content in all sorts of various ways to move people through the funnel. You just have to make sure that you're strategizing at the right stage.
Cool. So I guess we'll start talking about some video trends that we saw. We all know that video is a really powerful tool for advertisers. It's a great way to grab attention when somebody's scrolling down a site. If they see something moving, it's going to make their eye go directly there and see what is moving there. It also, video is a really powerful way to create emotion and to create those emotional connections between the brand and the audience. And according to a lot of studies, we remember things that we see in videos more. So video is a really great way to kind of advertise your fashion or beauty product. And we ran an analysis based on the fashion and beauty videos running in our network right now. And we found some cool things. So what you see over here is a graph that looks at both the completion rate and the viewability rate. So the viewability rate is, watching half of the video for at least 2 seconds. The way we look at that is this video attention grabbing or not? And then we have the completion rate, which of course means that you completed the video. So what we asked ourselves is which types of videos are both grabbing attention and which types of videos are maintaining that attention for like an engagement. And so what we found here, and this is kind of funny actually, if you look at what didn't succeed, right? Look at like low completion and low viewability. What we see there is kind of funny. So there's like beard did really badly for some reason, and nose. And then there's like tuxedos and suits. So it kind of feels like any like male related content isn't doing so well, at least in video, at least right now. And then if you look at the things that are doing well, so the high viewability and the high completion, that's like the top right corner. So we see shampoo and lotion doing well there. I can imagine those like videos with like, shampoo advertisements. And then we have dancing, which is interesting, and eyelashes, which is interesting. So this is a cool thing to kind of take a look at when you're trying to figure out what types of videos you want to promote or what types of videos you want to create, and try to rely on data when you're doing that. So yeah.
So aside from the actual characteristics and items in the video that Rachel just showed you, we want to show you a couple of different strategies that also work well across the gamut with video. So the first one is about slow motion. I'm going to play this video for you.
That's such a great example for slow motion. I love that.
So,
yeah, we actually have a blog post about slow motion. But yeah, slow motion is like a real thing. It's like a real strategy, and it works really well, at least according to studies. So there's like this like a dramatizing effect when you watch a video that's slow motion. According to articles, according to different studies that we read, there's also an emotional effect. Like we feel differently when we watch the same exact video when it's slow motion as opposed to when it's like regular pace. There was a study that showed participants the same exact videos. One was slow motion and one was regular pace. And it was an eye tracking study. And what they saw, which is pretty obvious, is that the participants that watched a slow motion video, they attended to more details. I guess we have time to attend to more details when it's slow motion, but it really affects us in like a positive way. So that's really cool. And then this was a really cool study that found that when we watched slow motion videos, it felt like time was flying, right? They say like when you're having fun, time is flying. So when we watch slow motion videos, it feels like time is flying as well. What they did is they asked people to estimate how much time do they think they were watching the video, and they underestimated by over 4x, which is like, you know, a large number. So that was really cool. Slow motion is really, really effective. And what we saw is that it really works specifically well for beauty and fashion.
All right, so let's move on to this next one from Dove. We're going to talk a little bit about authenticity for this one. This is their Real Beauty campaign.
I think that women undervalue their fullness, even their fullness of their spirits. Women don't know how potent, powerful they are, no matter what they look like, no matter what size they are. Women are always beautiful because they're women.
Ah, that's so great too. It makes me want to buy Dove like right now. Yeah, so authenticity is really interesting because when you think of an advertisement, like what do we think about? Like we automatically think of like beautiful models that are smiling perfectly with like their perfectly white teeth, right? And traditionally advertisers really did look at advertisements in that way, right? They made these like perfect advertisements where the model was walking in the exact way that they wanted them to walk and looked exactly the way that they wanted them to look. I think in recent years, people have become skeptical towards that perfectionism, and we tend to like that a little bit less. And I would say, especially online, like I don't know if there's a difference between like billboards and online, but I feel like this trend is at least starting in the digital space. And what we're seeing now is like studies that are showing that when there are disclaimers saying, you know, this model was or this person was not photoshopped or this is an actual like real recording, people actually purchase that product more. They like that product more, and they feel more positive feelings towards that product and towards that brand. So that was pretty cool. I really feel like that's a trend that has started in recent years, and it's just going to get stronger and stronger. We ran an analysis also in Taboola, and this was a pretty cool analysis that's related to authenticity, and that's that we looked at the quality of the video, and what we found is that videos that had really, really high quality and were like extremely professional, those videos didn't actually do as well as the videos with like normal quality. We think it has to do with authenticity because, you know, the second you start watching a video and it feels so polished and so perfect, you're kind of like, okay, that's another ad. While when it's a more authentic and more real video, that's when you actually feel like engaging with it more.
All right, so the last one, which is a pretty well-known trend in the beauty and fashion industry, we just want to talk a little bit about tutorials and how you can use them in video to help promote your brand. So we're going to show you this example real quick from Beauty Blender. It's really powerful, right? It's really simple, but the thing about tutorials in particular is that they work twofold. One, they convince you to buy the product because you watch a face transform before your eyes, hopefully and likely in a way that you want your own face to transform. And then second, for users who've already purchased your product, it helps them use it better and hopefully will lead them to become evangelists for your brand. You're teaching them how to use it right, and you're also convincing them to buy from you over and over again. So it's definitely a huge trend within the fashion and beauty industries right now. But it works. It's a huge trend because it works. And these super short snippets are just addicting to watch. and a lot of fun. And we've seen a lot of advertisers be successful with them as well.
I love tutorials, by the way, especially beauty tutorials. And I don't even like use makeup. It's just fun to watch. I totally agree with that.
It is. It's really fun to watch. So I just wanted to show you one more example from an advertiser that was successful with Taboola, Adidas, who was promoting their new Boost technology in a new sneaker. So this one is actually a good example for a strategy that we didn't particularly point out, but we talk a lot here in the walls of Taboola about how motion in video really works, and Adidas sort of captures that here. And also there are parts where they're kind of combining motion with slow motion. They're slowing down and then boosting forward. It's just a really good combination of the type of ad that is really eye-catching. You want to watch all the way through, and did a great job at elevating awareness for this new technology that they have.
Yeah, and of course, you know, in Taboola, one of the main things that we talk about is always data, right? We always want to make decisions based on data. And one great source of information of data is actually looking at trends.taboola.com. So what you're looking at here is actually an image analysis, and we'll talk about images, but we also have a video analysis there. What we do on this site is that every single week or every single month, depending on if it's video or images, we'll take every single one of the creatives that ran on our network and we'll analyze them for best practices. The reason why we do that on a website and not on like a static PDF of best practices is because what we realize is that online trends are changing all the time. So just because black and white, you know, or actually just because color is working really well now for fashion and beauty, it doesn't mean that it won't switch to black and white in a few weeks. And so we want to keep an eye on those trends, and that's why we're constantly analyzing our creatives for that. So this is a really great place to kind of get inspiration as to what types of creatives you should be testing in your campaign, what's working really well for your competitors within your specific country, language, and platform. And then this is a really cool tool. This is a title analyzer or a title predictive tool. What you can do here is you can actually, we didn't really talk so much about, we spoke a little bit about the title, but not too much. What you can do here is you can put in any title that you think that you've come up with, and you can press test my title, put in another title, and you can see which one has a higher predictive CTR. This is a really fun way to kind of come up with new titles and new ideas and new creatives. And it's something that we highly suggest to our advertisers to use. You know, we're always talking about A/B testing, but what you can do here is you can A/B test the creatives with the highest potential, really, based on like this tool over here. So it's a really fun tool. Definitely use it, and then choose the top 5 titles that work the best for you here and test those live on a campaign.
So this is actually my favorite tool on the trend site. As a content marketer, I'm obviously writing a lot of titles, whether or not it's for a campaign or for a blog article or a webinar or something different. So we're particularly analyzing here titles that we think will have a higher CTR. But I found it really useful in sort of having those conversations more effectively within a team where you're talking about which titles will work best, which ones do people like better, what's a little bit more eye-catching. This is super helpful in having those conversations and kind of rising the best to the top and making decisions to A/B test from there. So I absolutely love this tool. I'm a big advocate for it. Sure. So finally, you've found your audience online, you've built your creative, and we just want to talk a little bit about how to measure for success. So this is an analysis on the KPIs that most fashion and beauty advertisers are targeting in their online campaigns. The majority of you are targeting lead generation and page views over purchases. And this is kind of typical for the open web. We see a lot of awareness content and sort of middle of the funnel content as well, but a large chunk are also targeting purchases. This is a good illustration, I would say, of exactly what we were talking about earlier in the funnel. A lot of beauty and fashion advertisers are using the open web to move people through the funnel all the way through all three of the stages. So, and it looks like the majority of that spend is happening on the lead gen section. So just a couple of takeaways from what we talked about today. One, try testing tablet devices. It has the largest opportunity out of any of the recommendations that we've given you here today. And also use photo galleries to market your products on the open web. Maybe use photo galleries on tablet devices. Go crazy. But both of those recommendations have the largest opportunity and are likely to make the most impact for you in your campaigns immediately. And then again, try strategies in either your sponsor content or your video, like celebrity marketing, urgency, seasonality, the DKI targeting that we talked about, where you can specify whether or not someone's in a certain city, slow motion video, authenticity, and tutorials. And also, of course, check these image, videos, and keyword trends regularly because they're always changing. And all of the insights that we've given you here today are in our fashion and beauty benchmark report, plus more. We also break down these insights by specific country. There are more examples in the fashion and beauty report and a lot more depth as to exactly the recommendations that we're giving. You can get very specific for your products, your country, your audience. You can download it at that URL down there, go.taboola.com/fashion-beauty-report, if you're interested in diving a little bit deeper into some of the insights we've talked to you about here today. All right, well, that's really it on our end. We're just